Welcome back to Real Family Secrets. Get comfortable, because some betrayals don't begin with a confession. They begin with one sentence you were never meant to hear. My name is Nathan Cole. Last summer, at my younger sister's wedding, my wife leaned toward the best man and whispered, "Not tonight. There are too many eyes." I was standing 3 feet away, holding a champagne glass. And for the next 6 months, I acted like I had heard nothing at all. My wife, Ileana, and I had been married 12 years. We met in our late 20s at a friend's backyard cookout before either of us had much figured out. She was funny, sharp, and the kind of person who made strangers feel like they'd known her for years. I worked in commercial insurance. She ran communications for a regional arts nonprofit. We had a house outside Chicago, a dog named Baxter, and a life that looked stable from the outside. Weekend dinners, family birthdays. The same argument every year about whether we should host Thanksgiving or travel. I thought ordinary meant safe. My younger sister, Claire, was getting married to a man named Thomas. Their ceremony was held at an old lakeside hotel, the kind with white columns, polished wood floors, and a ballroom facing the water. My entire family was there. My parents, my older brother, cousins I hadn't seen in years. Claire had spent 18 months planning every flower, every place card, every song. Ileana had helped her with almost all of it. She went dress shopping with Claire. She designed the welcome cards. She even stayed up late the night before the wedding, tying ribbons around small boxes of favors for every guest. Everyone loved Ileana. That was part of why it took me so long to understand what I had seen. Thomas's best man was named Adrian Vale. He had been Thomas's college roommate and business partner for years. Adrian was handsome in the polished, effortless way some men are. He had a calm voice, expensive-looking suits, and the kind of confidence that made people assume he belonged wherever he stood. Ileana had met him once before, at Claire and Thomas's engagement party. I remembered because she had come home afterward and said, "Your sister's future brother-in-law has a very charming friend." I had laughed. Should I be worried? "Only if you start wearing better shoes," she said. At the time, it felt harmless. The wedding ceremony ended just before sunset. Claire walked down the aisle in tears. Thomas cried before she did, and my mother held my father's hand so tightly his knuckles turned white. It was beautiful. The kind of day that makes people believe love is simple because everyone is dressed well and the music is playing softly enough. After the ceremony, guests gathered on the terrace for cocktails before dinner. I was talking to my uncle near the railing when I noticed Ileana across the terrace. She was standing beside Adrian near a tall cocktail table, partly hidden by a large arrangement of white flowers. They were talking closely, not touching, not laughing loudly, just standing too near each other for two people who had only met once before. I told myself that weddings make strangers friendly. People drink champagne, they share stories, they act warmer than usual. Then I heard her voice. "Not tonight," Ileana said. I turned slightly, still pretending to listen to my uncle. "There are too many eyes." Adrian said something too low for me to hear. Ileana shook her head. "Tomorrow. I told you, tomorrow." I didn't move. I didn't spill my drink. I didn't walk toward them. I stood there with a champagne glass in my hand, watching the woman I had shared a bed with for 12 years look at another man with an expression I had not seen directed at me in a very long time. A few minutes later, she came back to me smiling. "Your uncle is telling the same fishing story again, isn't he?" she asked. "Something like that." She slipped her hand through my arm. Her fingers were cold. Dinner began at 8. Claire and Thomas danced. My father gave a toast. The maid of honor cried halfway through hers, then laughed at herself for crying. Ileana sat beside me the entire time. She smiled for photographs. She rested her head on my shoulder during one slow song. Across the room, Adrian watched us. I said nothing that night. Some people would call that weakness. But I had spent 12 years building a life with Ileana, and I needed to know whether I had heard one terrible sentence or discovered the edge of something much larger. I wasn't going to accuse her based on a whisper at my sister's wedding. I was going to find out the truth. The next morning, we had breakfast with the family at the hotel before driving home. Ileana kept checking her phone under the table. Every time it buzzed, she turned it face down before I could see the screen. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Work," she said. "A donor issue." It was Sunday morning. Her nonprofit had no event scheduled, but I nodded anyway. On the drive home, I didn't bring up Adrian. I listened to Ileana describe the wedding as if it had been a perfectly normal weekend. "Claire looked so happy," she said. "I can't believe it's over." "Neither can I." The following week, I made an appointment with a family law attorney named Miriam Brooks. Miriam listened carefully as I explained what I had overheard. When I finished, she didn't tell me to install tracking software. She didn't tell me to access Ileana's private accounts. She didn't tell me to confront her. "Document what you can legally access," she said. "Joint finances, shared calendars, public information. And if you decide to hire an investigator, let that person do the work lawfully." So I hired a private investigator. Her name was Lena Morris. She was direct, discreet, and did not make promises she couldn't keep. "I don't start by assuming an affair," she told me. "I start by confirming a pattern." For 3 weeks, I lived normally. I went to work. I walked Baxter. I ate dinner across from Ileana and listened to her describe meetings, projects, and people whose names I barely remembered. I also watched her lie more easily than I had imagined possible. Lena's first report arrived on a Thursday afternoon. Ileana had met Adrian at a hotel near the airport 2 days after Claire's wedding. "Tomorrow," she had whispered. And tomorrow was exactly what she meant. Over the following 3 weeks, Lena documented 5 additional meetings. Coffee shops in different neighborhoods, a hotel lounge, a rented apartment Adrian used when he traveled to Chicago for business. The relationship had not begun at the wedding. It had been going on for nearly 7 months. They had used Claire's engagement party to reconnect. They had used family events as cover. And they had used the wedding weekend as an excuse to be in the same hotel without raising questions. The worst part was not that they had been careful. The worst part was that they had been careful around my family. Miriam reviewed Lena's report and the records from our joint account. Ileana had used joint funds for hotel charges, ride shares, dinners, and several non-profit consulting expenses that led directly to Adrian's business accounts. The amount wasn't enormous, just over $14,000 across 7 months. But every dollar had been hidden inside a marriage she was already preparing to leave. I waited another month before confronting her, not because I wanted revenge, because Claire and Thomas had scheduled a large family brunch at their house to celebrate their first anniversary. It would be the first time all of us would be together since the wedding. And I had decided I would not let Ileana attend that brunch pretending to be part of a family she had quietly used as camouflage. Claire's anniversary brunch was held in early autumn. She and Thomas had bought a small house with a bright dining room and a backyard full of half-finished landscaping projects. My parents brought pastries. My brother brought wine. Thomas grilled vegetables outside, while Claire arranged flowers in the center of the table. Ileana arrived with me, wearing a pale blue dress and a smile I recognized immediately. It was the same smile she wore at the wedding. I waited until everyone had eaten. I waited until coffee was poured and Claire started talking about a possible anniversary trip next spring. Then I stood. "Before we leave," I said, "I need to say something." The table went quiet. I looked at Ileana. "At Claire's wedding, I heard you tell Adrian Vale, 'Not tonight. There are too many eyes.'" Ileana's face lost all color. Claire looked between us. Thomas stopped moving beside the kitchen counter. "I didn't say anything then," I continued. I wanted to believe I had misunderstood, but I didn't. I placed a thin folder on the dining table. "This contains the evidence of a 7-month affair. It includes hotel receipts, meetings, and money from our joint account used to support it." "Nathan, please," Ileana whispered. "No," I said. "You had 7 months to speak honestly. You had my sister's wedding, my family's trust, and 12 years of marriage. You chose to protect a secret instead." Thomas looked at me. "Adrian, your best man." Claire's hand went to her mouth. "At my wedding?" she asked Ileana. Ileana couldn't answer. "He won't be part of our family again," Thomas said quietly. His voice was calm, but I had known him long enough to hear how much effort that calm required. My father stared down at his coffee. My mother began crying silently, not because she was surprised, I think, but because she understood that there was no way to put the day back together. Ileana left 15 minutes later. I did not follow her. That afternoon, I took Baxter for a long walk through our neighborhood. The leaves were beginning to turn. Children were riding bicycles along the sidewalk. Nothing in the world looked different, even though everything in mine had changed. The divorce took 8 months. The documented spending and concealed transfers mattered in the settlement. Ileana took responsibility for the expenses tied to the affair, and I kept the house because it had been mine before our marriage. Adrian's marriage ended too. His wife learned the truth from him after Thomas called and told him that he had one chance to confess before the evidence reached her. Claire and Thomas stayed married. Their first anniversary was not the celebration they had planned, but they made it through the shock together. Claire told me later that she felt guilty for inviting Adrian to stand beside Thomas at the wedding. I told her the truth. You didn't invite betrayal into your wedding. You invited someone you trusted. What he did with that trust was his choice. I think about that sentence sometimes. Trust is not foolishness. Trust is what honest people offer before someone proves they don't deserve it. I still have one photograph from Claire's wedding in a box at the back of my closet. Everyone is smiling in it. Ileana is standing beside me. Adrian is behind Thomas with one hand on his shoulder. You cannot see the whisper in the photograph, but I can still hear it. Not tonight. There are too many eyes. If this story moved you, subscribe for more real family stories, and tell us in the comments, would you have confronted your spouse at the wedding, or waited until you had proof?
Your ringtone got a temper, it bites my ear. I let her ring twice just to prove I'm still here, yeah.
I walk in the room like, who forgot to pray? Chain doing backflips, watch doing ballet. My thoughts in cursive, yours in all caps. I don't do maybes, I do contracts. She want the truth, but the truth too sharp. I keep it tucked like a tool in the dark. Came from the mud with a suit on a smirk. Now my name stamping receipts when I work.
Don't call me sweet if you mean stay small. I've been the spark and the wall. Say what you want, but don't talk cheap. If you want me close, come deeper than deep. We don't flirt, we bargain. Heat with a fine print. Kiss like a dare, leave a mark, no fingerprint. If it's love, it moves loud, no maybe in the air. Step in, hold steady, or don't come near.
I don't need saving, I need you precise. Talk to me clean, no sugar, no spice. I'm not your trophy for a midnight shelf. I'm the headline I don't share with else.
You got a mouth full of jokes and a pocket full of wins, but I clock how you move when the silence begins. If you're real, then be real when the room don't clap. I can smell a costume through a velvet trap. Look on chase, I replace the chase with momentum. Heart got a lock and I change the pin on a whim too. But you got that walk away power. Make a king feel a draft in his own high tower.
That mean me playing no smoke, no theater. Touch my mind first, that's the real feature. Two big egos, one lane, no brakes. If it crash, let it crash from the choices we made.
Don't flirt, weak bargain. Heat with a fine print. Kiss like a dare, leave a mark, no fingerprint. If it's love, it moves loud, no maybe in the air. Step in, hold steady, or don't come near. Say it with your chest, not your chest. Hey, straight like that. Call me trouble if you like to spell it right.
And if you want peace, don't start no fight.